Elijah, and I'm joined with my great friend Ricardo, and we are back with another great episode from HBCU Drumline Talk. Last episode, we were in Alabama and had the captain and co-captain from Tuskegee University Drumline as guests. If you missed it, please check it out on YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. But today, we are heading all the way south, just over the Louisiana state line, to speak with another good friend of mine, Mr. Ricardo Davis, percussion instructor for Grambling State University Drumline, also known as the world famed Drumline. Welcome, Mr. Davis, and thank you for taking time out your day to join us.
All mine. Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, welcome.
Cool. So we're not gonna waste no time. Talk to us about how you were introduced to percussion.
I actually have a funny story about that. I was in the sixth grade, right, middle school. So pretty much here in Louisiana, we do things like music with recorders and things like that in elementary. But really, like band and things like that doesn't really start. Concert band, marching band, jazz band doesn't really start till like the sixth grade. So with that being the case, I was actually trying to play saxophone. I was trying to play saxophone, and I was bugging my mom, telling her about my mouthpiece, my reeds, and stuff like that. And it just so happens that she kept putting it off. Band director, Bethune Middle School, named Paul Tinker, excellent guy, taught me all my fundamentals, everything, reading, writing. We were trying to do all that stuff back then. This is like I was in the sixth grade. So I was supposed to get the mouthpiece. He told me it was the last day. I called my brother at work, my oldest brother, who was in the band in high school as well, section leader. And he was like, look, I got one of my friends here. His name was Troy. And Troy actually played snare for Texas Southern. So it's weird. He played snare for Texas Southern. And he said, I got a drum pad and a pair of sticks in the car with me if you want to learn how to play drums. He brought him up to the school. Went and bought me a blue Rubank elementary book, beginner book. And that's literally, it was just because my mom procrastinated on buying a mouthpiece. So I ended up playing, percussion. Yeah. Best decision ever.
Yeah, man, that's great. So you started playing out of just for like an accident, like you said, the best decision ever at this point. So we're gonna jump right into it. And I know with the world famed Drumline, you guys, the title itself is world famed, but please talk to us about, the history and the progression of the world famed Drumline. Especially, I really want to look at Big Mac, the significance of Big Mac.
Okay, like I tell a lot of people, dealing with Big Mac, and I'll just circle back to the first part of that question, but dealing with Big Mac, a lot of, because it's rare, you don't see it. You see a large bass drum, a very extremely large bass drum with Michigan, but for the most part, you don't really see that with the HBCU style drumline. So the central core of Big Mac, even back in the day, if you look at any old footage of the Grambling band, whatnot, halftime perform on the field, we would have more, I don't want to call them scatter drills, but our drills were more intricate as far as in how we actually, you would see us making snake patterns and stuff all over the field to spell things, etc. Now it's a little bit more streamlined. Dr. Thomas is doing that now, but it's a lot more streamlined now. But back then, we also didn't have a lot of bass drums. So when you're on the field and you have all of these units and bass drums, you really don't per se have to push Big Mac, because if you got the bass drums in a squad, everything worked out perfectly. But back then, we would have maybe like 2 units and bass drums, 30-inch bass drums, and we had Big Mac itself. So when you're over the field, going over wide distances, you would see Big Mac being pulled around. It's a very loud drum, old drum, very loud. And the delay on it, it's almost magical. The delay on it is very, very minimum. In most stadiums I've been in when we played with it or whatnot, it's very minimum. So when you park it on a 50, or you're playing, or you're doing the actual drill, the band can pretty much get a good tempo. And if the farther you go back in time with the legendary Conrad Hutchinson, you'll notice that the band was moving a lot faster as well. So you needed that driving tempo to keep everything going. And that's pretty much the history on Big Mac. We didn't have, like now you may look at us when we have 10 units and bass drums. versus back then, we'd have two bass drummers, maybe one, and Big Mac. So now you have that Big Mac parked on the 50 or throughout the drill, and it's keeping time and tempo. So I've seen bands fall apart on the field, high school, college. That would never happen with Grambling, just because of the actual bass drum. And so now you'll see the drum line even now in the drills and concert formation. We're all in the center. We're kind of grouped together. So it's still more now a storied tradition that we're continuing. It's a continuing. And that drum, I see a lot of people, they joke about it, but that drum has been more places than most programs have ever been. You know, that drum has been been to Africa, been to Japan multiple times. Wow. That drum literally has played in every major professional stadium in the United States. That's a quick fun fact. That drum has been everywhere. It has been featured in commercials. I remember back when I was in school, 1998, we did a Cartoon Network commercial. That drum, Tampax, Grambling State University commercial, ESPN, Rose Bowl, any type of commercial you can think of, movies, Drumline, that drum has been everywhere. It's almost synonymous with us. So while some people look at it and they don't understand the methodology and why we use it, again, it has a storied tradition, a storied history with it. So that's pretty much the deal with Big Mac or whatnot. So a lot of people don't really understand that, but that's our philosophy behind Big Mac.
You know, I think that's really great. I had a couple of questions about that, and not just to say that it looks out of place, because like I said, it's traditional, but that drum, what size is that?
It's 36.
Okay. 36. And how hard is it to get those heads?
Well, they're not very hard. About Remo, we have tons of those heads sitting on deck. We're loaded with those heads. We don't have to worry about that. Because it has to go everywhere. If we're going to perform, if we're doing a commercial, whatever, it's going to be with us. We recently did a Coca-Cola commercial prior to last season with members of the Drumline, and you can see the bass drum in the actual commercial and things like that. So that we're going to always make sure those heads, we're going to be sitting on reserves for those heads.
Yeah, I think it's really great to actually see you guys with that drum. And you mentioned something, you guys have like 10 unison bass drums, right? And I noticed that you said something earlier that that Big Mac, the bass drum is really loud. Does it ever come to a point where you can hear that over the 10 unison bass drums?
To be honest with you, it just adds to it. It's more so from a color standpoint. Because we have, well, let me put it like this: we have a set of tonal drums that we play as unison. Okay, so you have different pitches when you're tuning the drums because of the size of the drum. So it's just more color. It's loud. It just adds on. It's not like we're playing different parts. They're still playing the same parts as the unison drums, etc. But it just adds to it, just an overall loud drum. Like when you hear it, back in the day, we would march from Dunbar Hall. Now our stadium is directly not even 70 yards from the stadium. But back in the day, it was almost like a parade coming to the stadium. It would be maybe like a half mile, maybe a little more to get there. You would hear that drum before you would even see the band for like minutes. 10 minutes, you'll hear the drum. You're like, oh, they're coming over the hill. We're going to see them any moment now. You don't see them. That drum just pushes sound. It just pushes sound. So, it really blends in with it. We had a battle in 2019, 2020 against Texas Southern on the sideline. And while we're kind of like boxed in on the sideline, we had those 10 unison bass and Big Mac playing at the same time. So it really just fits in with it.
Yes, I was ready to ask, have you ever used it in a drumline battle, Big Mac? But you said you have, so okay. Yeah, you good, Rick?
Yeah, I think did you want to talk about the history and the progression of the world famed Drumline?
Yes, like I came up under Dr. Edwin Thomas, and he's pretty much really the bread and butter that holds the Drumline together. He taught me when I was in school, and he's still teaching me. He's still teaching me different things, history. I pick his brain every chance I get, or whatnot. It's a huge wealth of knowledge, just little fun facts and things like that. Like some of our number cadences that are extremely old. He was just sharing with me about a month and a half ago. that one of our cadences actually came from an old Maxwell coffee commercial from the 50s. From the 50s. So it's like certain rhythms in it, and they just made it a cadence and whatnot. So it's like a lot of different things like that. So the progression now is more so competing in the modern world, making sure rote is very minimal. So we're not really using rote. And if most people don't understand what rote is, it's like teaching and training by ear. We try to do more teaching and training from sheet, from music, paper, binders for the percussion. So when you come there, we want to really push and educate that people can actually read, play. Makes it a lot easier, a lot less stressful, because you have people that learn at different styles or whatnot. So for a point in time, it was a lot of rote, where we were learning more a lot by ear. We had the material, we had the cadences and stuff on paper, but we progressively over the last few years, we've started putting everything electronically. So all of our cadences are electronically. We can print them out. We got them saved, archived for the most part. Even some of the stuff that we're bringing back into rotation now. We're just trying to go back and show a lot of the old for our alumni base. We have a very strong alumni base. And also, so they don't feel left behind when we play things that they can recognize. At the same time, we have to advance. And you have a lot of good drum lines like Elisha drumline, Virginia State. Very good, very technical. So we have to compete with guys like that, so we have to be pretty much progressively moving forward, making it as easy as possible through teaching techniques, approach of drums, making sure a lot of people come through, because they may have not even had quality drumline instructors. They could probably not read the best. So when you come there for higher learning, we make sure you get higher education. We make sure you learn how to read to the best of your ability. As long as you apply yourself, you'll be the best you can be.
It's outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah, I can agree with, having music on paper. When me and Rick got to school, everything was taught by, ear, rote, whatever. Want no sheet music. But, as I became instructor, I tried to get everything on paper. Like I said, make everything, look easier. So, Mr. Davis, me and you talk, a lot, outside of percussion, and I consider you, a very smart guy, very knowledgeable of different stuff. So what is your philosophy or approach when it comes to marching percussion?
Well, when we're playing with the band, the philosophy is to be felt, not heard. And I know a lot of people don't really understand that, but when you think about Earth, Wind, and Fire, you think about any type of music with live instrumentation, you feel the music. If you grew up, your mom was in there dancing, listening to Earth, Wind, Fire, whatever, right? You feel the music. Yeah, you hear it, but you really feel it. And it's more impactful with feeling. Now, my approach when it's just us playing is to be felt, power, and heard, right? It's to be felt and heard. That's pretty much the gist of it. Philosophy-wise, it's to be felt and heard. Now, our approach to the drums, we use a lot of molar technique, and that's something I've noticed, like a lot of Southern traditional type drum lines. And we've progressed over the time. One of our sister schools down South Southern pretty much has a kind of similar playing style. I think with our cadence and stuff like that, our approach, we're a little bit faster. But for the most part, they haven't progressed and started incorporating quints and things like that into it. But we're trying to, we've done that. We've started doing that. And it's just really just our approach is just to be introduce a lot more technicality, because it's a stigma that a lot of people use with that approach of the Southern type traditional playing, that it's not technical. And some schools are not clean, so that doesn't help our cause. So we have to make sure that from a metronome standpoint, our number one job is to fix internal clocks. All new freshmen coming in, we got to reset that internal clock, make sure everybody's practicing with metronomes. So our approach is to be, felt and heard when we're playing with ourselves, just playing for the school, for the audience, things like that against another drum line. And then, of course, when we're playing with the band, it's just to be felt but not really heard. That approach that it just makes you want to get up and say, you know what, that's the band, not the drum line. You have some drum lines that it's almost like that approach is non-existent when they're playing music. It's just like loud, 24/7, just loud. And we try to tone back when we're playing with the band You want to feel. You want the bass drums to kind of mimic with the horn line, the bass line, the tubas. You know, different things like that, because it's not about the drum line at that point. It's about the band at that point. So when you listen to the band play, it's a complete package. And then when the drum line is playing, we're trying to introduce ourselves. We want you to be, you know, be heard and be felt. We want power.
Okay, yeah, it's one thing you said. You mentioned you said metronome. You know, you don't hear it a lot coming from instructors. But that's metronome is your best friend, not only during practice, but also when the kids are on their own practicing. You know, you got to use a metronome. Speaking with other schools, it's amazing how everybody has their choice of heads and stuff like that. Talk to us about the choice of heads and tuning for the world famed drumline. And how has it changed, I guess, since you marched and now?
We're talking about over a couple decades ago. So when I marched, it was really a more traditional sound. Because our approach with the band is that, the SWAC, our conference, is more of a power conference. So everybody's blowing, everybody's putting a lot of air through the horns. We had a former director, Curtis Willis, to tell us, let's fill up the world. So that's the approach with sound. So from that perspective, tuning dry with, let's say, a Black Mac head or an Aramid head or Kevlar head, it doesn't really work. It doesn't really gel with the actual band. The sound doesn't. That traditional sound does, because it's almost like you're mimicking a drum set, right? But you have a 225-piece horn collective playing with it. So our approach has changed over the years. So, of course, if you look back in the day, the band has gotten bigger. Size fluctuates depending on people coming in and things like that. There's no set number every single year. Of course, I'm pretty sure we'd love to be as big as possible every single year, right? But the numbers do fluctuate. So, but our approach has changed a bit. We started off the last couple of seasons and prior, maybe like the last decade, using Black Max drum heads. But we really didn't tune them high. It was more of a wet sound, which isn't really the best. Sounds good up close, mid-range. But when you start talking about in parades and things like that, it kind of loses its attack, that high-intensity attack. So around the Bayou Classic a couple years ago, we started using Power Stroke 77, because that's what I marched with when we marched. It was more of a traditional snare drum head. It's a Mylar head. So it gave us more of a delayed attack, whereas your Kevlar is going to give you more of a instant attack. It's pretty much the resonance. It's pretty much non-existent on the Kevlar head, on Aramid head, So our approach has changed. Even this season, we went back looking at Black Max with another tuning scheme, but we're probably going to go back to Mylar. We're probably going to go back to tradition, and you'll see a lot of our old tradition creeping back in, Mylar. I talked with the head band director, Dr. Roebuck, just a few days ago, and we were talking about the sound and the attack and things like that, and things she liked to hear, and things she remembered when she marched in the band, and that force that makes you want to drive and things like that or whatnot. So it's a bit different, but our approach now is more of a traditional approach. Our tuning is pretty much more of a traditional tuning. I would say you'll never really hear us very dry. You'll never hear us sounding more so like, let's say, Norfolk or Cold Steel or Prairie View and A&M. We're going to sit somewhere probably between Texas Southern and maybe Southern. Not tuned as low as Southern, but above Southern. So, because that's pretty much where the sweet spot where we really want to be at or whatnot. We don't really want to be too dry because it just doesn't accompany the band for the sound we're looking for.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, you brought up some good points here. A lot of things here in regards to tuning and the head choices that you like to use. And for our viewers out there, for our potential instructors, percussion instructors, there is a difference between that Kevlar, Mylar, and some different overheads out there. And the sound is quite different. You said something that really stuck out to me is resetting the internal clock. And this goes back to using that metronome and everything. And you've seen a lot of people come through your drum line. I'm sure you have. You've been in a drum line as well. With that resetting the internal clock, can you talk to us about some of the core values that will help incoming freshmen reset that internal clock in regards to the metronomic aspect?
No practice. I would say there should be no practice without a metronome, right? There shouldn't be any practice without a metronome. And the reason being is because you're gonna perform how you practice, right? You're gonna perform how you practice. So if I give you a solo or a cadence, and I give you this cadence and it's at 120 BPM, of course you're gonna learn things more, slower. You're gonna slow it down to make sure that the attack, the approach, the fundamentals, the touch, the feel of the cadence is actually and integrity is there. But when we start playing at that tempo, Elisha was pretty much explaining this. It makes it a lot easier when you're practicing at the tempo, because when you're practicing at the tempo, when you come back from your dorm that night before and you come back to sectionals, we're not trying to teach at sectionals. We're trying to critique and manage at sectionals, not really teach, because you end up in a rote situation. So if you can practice that internal clock, I would say all the incoming freshmen and things like that, and even if you're not an incoming freshman, if you're a freshman in high school, if you're in middle school, always practice with a metronome and make sure that your drum line, with technology, you have free metronomes. You have metronomes you get on your smartphones, and most kids have smartphones. I would say use the same metronome so everybody has the same way of dealing with the metronome, how to use the metronome. And we want to fix that internal clock so that when you come in, everything with percussion is about timing and rhythm. And then, you have to deal with kids that come from schools that may not even really have a percussion instructor. Sometimes you get those kids that come from a school, they probably can read, they probably took private lessons and things like that. They may not have a percussion instructor, they may not even taken any private lessons. So we want to get that internal clock developed. Of course, the sooner the better for any percussionist, whether you choose to come to Grambling State University or you choose to go somewhere else. Me personally, I'm passionate about the craft all the way around. I would love to see that at every school. I would love to see all incoming freshmen developing that internal clock. And I would love to see the high school instructors putting a much harder emphasis on that, because that makes it a lot easier in college. For us, it makes it a lot easier in college.
Yeah, man. So it sounds like that's a big part of that. Is that pretty much like the one sole core value when you have people coming into your line? Just say, look, this is what we do here in regards to we're really metronomic. That's what we really look for. Definitely.
We definitely want to make sure that people know when you're coming. We're going to require you to read. We're going to work with you on your reading skills, because everybody's at a different level. That's completely understandable. Of course, we want everybody to come in performing at a very high level. That's not realistic. We recruit from everywhere, outstanding programs, some programs that are new, coming off the ground. Some band programs have been, defunct for a few years and they're picking back up in high school. So we're getting kids from everywhere. But as a higher education, my job is to make sure that you can and you do learn those skills. I'd rather you come in with them, but I'll make sure you leave with them.
Sounds good to me. And one thing, keep in mind to all of our prospective drumline instructors and teachers out there, hey, sectionals, try not to teach in sectionals, that's a big thing. That'll save you a lot of time. That's not for teaching purposes. That's for cleaning things up as well.
Exactly. Listen, exactly. It is not for teaching in sectionals. You don't have much time. We have events. We change field shows. We have special performance we're going to be doing. All time is precious. So you go to your dorm, you go over, you use your metronome, you come back in, we'll stylize it. We may clean up the sticking and things like that. We may, deal with visuals, but that's about as much teaching as we want to do. The stylization of what we're playing, not how to play it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and to go back, and I did a clinic a couple of weeks ago, and I was speaking on, because I, during my time, I noticed younger students or younger drummers can play a lick or a rudiment fast as I don't know what, but you tell them to slow it down and play it, they have trouble. I do not understand that, you know, but I try to tell them, you need to practice it slow, then speed the tempo up. But going to the next question, what would you tell a high schooler who is interested in joining the world famed drumline?
Okay. A lot of those kids I talk to on a daily basis, even kids that go to other schools or whatnot, because like I said, I care about the craft, and wherever you go, I just want to see our people succeed. I want to see our people go on to do great things, and of course, I would rather have people at the world fame. But if a kid is going to another school and they ask me for questioning and help, things like that, I definitely want to be there for them. But those kids coming in, I want them to really focus on the reading. I really want to focus on the metronomic and the actual percussion, just the integrity of being a percussionist. As you were speaking to slowing it down, that requires control. And, I'll almost liken it to a world-class sprinter. The difference between a world-class sprinter and the guy that can run really fast in the neighborhood is the world-class sprinter has technique, right? He has lots of technique. His stride, aerodynamics, how his hands and things are positioned, how he's moving, running on the ball of his foot, versus the kid that was born naturally fast but doesn't have those tools. So I kind of look at it from that standpoint as control. You play it slower, you have more control. The more you can control, the faster you can play. I don't really worry about speed. Speed comes from control. Speed comes from control. The last thing any of us want to do is be in a rainy environment, speeding on a highway, and lose control. No one wants a hydroplane. So we want to make sure that we're observant. We want to make sure we're tackling all of our issues. If we have issues being rudimentally sound, of course, with the 40 PAs, Percussive Art Society rudiments, we want to make sure you're on that. Hybrids are just a combination of that. So if you master those, you pretty much almost play any hybrid. It may take you time to learn different hybrids and things like that or whatnot. But so I would tell the kids, to be honest with you, back off a little bit on the hybrid. Back off on learning a lot of DCI licks, which a lot of the HBCUs are not going to play, right? We're not going to play those because we have our own material. And more so focus on being technically sound. Make sure that you understand how to read. Make sure you understand how that school you're trying to attend. And get with your percussion instructor and make sure that if you're going to a school that they're not familiar with, that they immerse you and start showing you the habits of that school and their approachability to the drum and how they approach the drum.
So, and when we marched, we didn't have YouTube, internet. Do you consider, I guess, YouTube being a hindrance to the kids now learning? I'm sure they can just, type in whatever and learn, but do you think because they're learning those hybrids and DCI licks and whatever lick first instead of the basics, do you feel like, the internet is killing them?
To be honest with you, it's a yes and no. I'll lean more toward yes. And the reason being is because technology kind of makes us as humans lazy, right? It makes us lazy. It makes us forget the core things. And I'll be honest with you, even with our drum line, I haven't had a single freshman come in and play a cadence we play correct, 100%. So it's small nuances and small things that you just won't get from YouTube, right? When you're looking at our drum lines, a lot of the times, like with technology with GoPros, you can see up close and personal, but a lot of us aren't really using that. So it's small things dealing with dynamic, crescendos, decrescendos, things like that, tenutos, just how we attack the drum, things like that, yeah, you can mimic it, but you're also listening to 12 to 14 snares played. So what you're really listening to is not really what you think it is. Yeah. So I think it's a learning tool. It can help. It does beat coming in. It depends. Like I said, that's why I really push learning to read music, because you can learn by watching a video, and sometimes playing something systematically over and over again incorrectly is a big hindrance, because now you've got muscle memory playing it incorrect. So I would really say, yes, focus on fundamentals, focus on, if you want to impress me, be fundamentally sound. If it's a cadence I wrote, I'm pretty sure I can just call out a measure and I know it'll be played wrong. So, and I'm pretty sure you're the same exact way. You'll sit there and say, hey, that's very close, close without, not quite what I actually wrote. So when you do things like that, I think it is a hindrance. It is just like everything else. It's a tool. A hammer is needed to build a home, but you don't need a hammer to put windows in with actual panes of glass in, right? You want to avoid that at all costs. So you have to know when to use that tool. If that YouTube and social media is your primary access to learning, it is definitely a hindrance.
Yes.
It is definitely a hindrance.
Good information.
Yeah, you bring up some good points here, and like I said, that's will probably be a sidebar discussion. The benefits of YouTube, in the percussion world, marching percussion world, and how it's applied as well. I wanted to ask, you probably have, Elijah, you probably have these same challenges. Virginia State's line is really, it's a nice sized drum line. I think it's one of the biggest drum lines in the CIAA. Am I correct?
Yes.
And I wanted to ask Mr. Davis this, with your drum line is large. I'm sure you've seen it larger than it is right now. What have been some of your challenges with just instructing a large line like you have?
The number one most important thing that I've learned is from the beginning is the camaraderie, the teamwork, and the trust. Playing music, pushing beats and things like that without soul, without energy, without musicality is just monotone. So I would say the biggest issue is you get a lot of different people, and those high school kids, they come from warring factions, in the bands and things like that. So they're rivals. But when you're coming together to play on the college level, that is completely anti-college. So it's about making that brother and sister that were in high school 4 years, maybe even middle school, some programs that were, battling each other. It's about making each other better. It's about dropping those grudges, because when you have a large drum line and you have a lot of different personalities, it almost kind of reminds me of building a super team. And you have a lot of different people that can play, but a lot of different people have a lot of pride, but they don't have pride in the actual current line. It's more so pride in where I came from and what we were taught. And then that just starts a whole chaotic thing. So when you have a lot of people, they have to buy into the program ASAP from day one of camp. They have to know that it's not about high schools. It's not about how good your high school was. It's not about how bad your high school you perceive that they didn't prepare you. It's about now we have one common goal, and that's to be the best that we can actually be, and putting our best foot forward. Like I said, I definitely think with that large drum line, a lot of times, a lot of kids like to play and they hear themselves. They don't really listen in. So you have to really watch out for that. You have to worry about, and one of the biggest things, you have to teach touch. Because a lot of kids have pad hands where they just play and they're not playing with anyone else, and they can play, but the internal clocks are not right. They don't have touch. If you're playing split parts between unison bass and tenors and quints and things like that, you want to make sure that you're not trying to beat the drum, because delay, everybody form isn't 100% accurate, and those small things create dirt, right? So you want to make sure everybody has the same approach. You want to make sure that everybody has the same goal. Our goal number one is to be clean and to be a team. To be a team and be clean. If we can accomplish those two things, the first thing, just being a team, we'll be clean, because everybody's going to buy into the program. They're going to buy into the training methodology. They're going to buy into what all the instructors and directors are telling them for the betterment of the drumline.
Good.
Okay, man, you're speaking some good knowledge, right now. I mean, so I guess talk to us about what separates the world famed drumline from any other HBCU drumline.
This is a very hard question. It's a very hard question. Because, as a percussionist, I could go through in detail and say this, and this. It'll probably go over a lot of people's heads. Of course, not you guys, of course, but a lot of people viewing, it'll probably go over their heads, right? But I would just say more so our approach and just being us. We have a history, a storied tradition. We have cadences that are older than my parents, right? We have a lot of different things that we have going for us. And it's really, that's what separates us, trying to be who we are. But, you can't really get caught up in that 100%. because you have to evolve. You definitely have to evolve. You can't have it where we have mastered everything we played from the 60s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and you're in 2021.
Yeah.
And you're competing against people that have musically bettered their drum lines. They're even patterning and modeling themselves after DCI type approaches. You know, people are chunking and things like that, making sure sections, you know, portions are clean. Instead of just saying, hey, that roll is dirty and walking off, or saying that's dirty, start over again. That's very futile. So I would say more so what makes us different is that the kids, I can say at Grambling State University, they know as instructors we have a wealth of knowledge. And I tell them all the time, our job, one of my best friends, he's also an instructor as well, his name is Chevis Ross. We tell them all the time, our job is to make sure you're not beaten. That's our job. And I just want them to actually know and understand that we have the skill set and the knowledge to make sure that doesn't happen. You can have a line that's better than you. You can have a line, but it's all about timing. It's about approach. It's about capitalizing on weaknesses, right? It's about controlling the narrative. It's about controlling the argument, controlling what type of material a person is playing based upon, you can't follow, right? You can't follow, you can't copycat, because then things like that start to hinder you. And it's very easy to lose when you start to follow drum line. Yeah. But what you do is you try to, when round one, you try to distance yourself in material. If you play something very, very technical, then if I play something very technical, it has to be different from a style and approach where you can appreciate it. So I would say the biggest thing, and I think Mr. Ross and Dr. Thomas and all the staff would agree, is that our ability, we're not locked in a box. Okay. That's what separates us from everybody. We have a storied tradition. We have a rich history from our program, but we're not trapped in a box. We can play ditty. We can also play what kids say, material that's bumping, right? Yeah. We can also play things that are just mellow and just make you want to just listen and bob your head. We can groove. But a lot of lines, they're locked in based on their approach, and they can only play one style one way. Whereas we look at ourselves as musicians more so. And when you look at a musician, Whitney Houston has many hit songs, right? If every song was My Love Is Your Love with Wyclef Jean, more of a hip-hop type song, then she wouldn't have been on the Bodyguard soundtrack with Kevin Costner. Yeah. Right? So it's her ability as an artist. And Michael Jackson, you have up-tempo, you have things like Have You Seen My Childhood, with just orchestra and a lot of almost, it sounds magical, right? And I think we have the ability to do that because we're not locked in a box. And I think a lot of times instructors and even people, in percussion connection, they want to put everybody in a box. They want everybody to say, no, that's not your style. You can't do that. I'll give you an example. Groove, right? If you have a surround system, if you have a Bose entertainment system, if you have some quality headphones, etc., anything, you'll notice that you can play concert hall, you can play groove, you can play jazz, you can play rock. Yep. Those are genres of music, right? And based upon what you're trying to hear, like for instance, when I'm listening to some classical jazz, I might use concert hall. Okay. And if I'm listening to, as far as in the way it's going to be styled and played, if I'm listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire, I could do that. I may use something totally different. And I think the approach is to not be pigeonholed through peer pressure and things like that, and really just be open to all things. Yes. I respect all styles. I love what you guys are doing. Literally, I've told you that behind the scenes, so it's not like I'm just saying it now for the interview, right? And I really appreciate your percussive mind. I've seen videos of you guys out there with stands, with sheet music, and I'm just smiling ear to ear, right? Yeah. So, and like I say, that's what instead of even hearing anything, just seeing that and seeing the wind blow paper off the stands, and I'm excited, because I'm looking at real quality teaching, and not being pigeonholed because of a conference. We hear swag style. There's no such thing as swag style. All right? We hear grooving. Oh, man, you guys are grooving now. That's not your style. No. And I think a lot of times my job is to educate people that, hey, groove. I tell you what, if you play drum set and if you want to get many gigs, you better know all styles.
Yes.
You better know all approaches. And you have to, because that's music. And that's how I pretty much look it up. So that's what separates us from every other drum line. I think it's our ability to be open-minded. It's our ability to be open-minded, you know.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you said some key things there that I wanted to talk about real quick. And there was two things that you said, you know, and Elijah, I know with any type of drum line that we've talked about, and you and I talk offline a lot, it's all about the evolution. You know, you have to evolve the drum line, right? And for Mr. Davis, he said something that was really important, and I can agree to this. I firmly stand by this. With any HBCU drum line, and there are a lot of HBCU drum lines out there, you have to control the narrative. Controlling the narrative, no matter what school you go to, you know, if you can do that, regardless of where you're at, you're going to be successful as a line. It doesn't matter what HBCU line we're talking about. It's just about, I think, just controlling that narrative. So thank you for really putting that out there.
Yeah.
And with speaking of that, and you know what separates the world famed drumline from every other HBCU drumline, the creative freedom that you guys have. And I've seen a lot of you guys seen your drumline play against other drumlines. How much freedom, creative freedom, do you allow the students to have when they're creating these shows or the cadences that you guys have?
Well, I would say myself, all of us are always open to doing things. We have to see it first. Right? And the reason being is because, you know, sometimes people can get carried away. Mm-hmm. Some things that may look very good just may not be appropriate for the function, right? Certain dance moves may not be appropriate for the function. You don't want to go perform at a church and execute certain dance moves, right? So I'm very open with my kids. I'm very open with them. They have ideas and things like that. A lot of times with the shows and stuff, I'll do the bulk of the show, and I'll listen to them, and I'll listen to their input if they want to add something in. Myself and Mr. Ross will do that, and then we'll show it to Dr. Thomas. With him we're talking about decades upon decades of experience. He'll look and say, you know what, I like that. If he smiles and walks off, that's a go, right? If it's, hey, let me talk to you for a second and rub his chin like this, hey, all right, you got to pull something out. So we do give them, because remember, even with like children, you don't want to stifle creativity. And it's not me. I'm trying to train leaders. And the number one way to not train the leader is to stifle their creativity, right? So I don't want to stifle the creativity. I want them to understand our approach. I want them to see I'm a very technical person, and I'm a very methodical and thorough person. That's just my personality. That's how I am with life in general. Yeah. I'm very methodical. I'm very analytical of things. So I'll spend the day saying, okay, how is the gym setup that we're going to battle in? I need to envision it. Yes. I need to see it. It's almost like, as an artist, I pay attention to detail, right? And what I've noticed is like, we've all seen cave paintings from Neanderthals and things like that, right? And a lot of people just think that cavemen, Neanderthals, troglodytes, whatever, they're just painting on the walls. My approach, I don't think they're doing it. I think they're envisioning it and trying to map it out so they can see it. Yeah. It's a strategy. When you look at coaches in the locker room halftime, they got that playboard and they're talking, and that's what you have to do. I think you have to actually put it into plan, and you have to make sure, because I'm trying to make sure that when that kid leaves Grambling State University, whether he or she leaves, whether they continue with percussion or not, they're going to go into the workforce. They're going to represent our people, right? They're going to represent our university. And I need them to be free thinkers. I need them to be able to think and switch on the fly. And I need them to know what a good idea looks like, what it sounds like, because I'm preparing more so men and women to uplift our people. So I need that attention to detail. I really need them to understand how I see things, how the rest of the staff see things, and to learn what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, right? We have a lot of drum lines that may use a lot of profanity and things like that. We don't do that, right? Yeah. I just don't think that's a good look for the university. So, and I know that can be easy with young kids. Well, they did it to us, and they've been doing it to everybody, and we're going to battle them next week. So we're not going to add that in, right? Yeah. So, and we just have to make sure they understand that, and it doesn't slip up and happen. So we'll give you creative freedom, but we need to see it, if that makes sense. We just need to see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, to go back to what you said, you know, and I tell my kids, I'm going to teach you how to play, how to read. I'm going to write this nice cadence. But my job is also to get you ready for the real world, because it's different from college, to going to the real world, working, how to pay rent, this and that, and I try to instill in them that, it's not just a drum line or band. You need to apply what you're doing here to the real world, being able to let the instructor know, okay, I'm not going to be at practice because of this and that. You're not going to just not call your boss at your job and tell, I'm not coming in today. You're going to let them know or you're going to get fired. So I try to, you write, and I try to instill that in them. Rick, you had something to say? I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
I was once told, one of my former band directors at Grambling State University always told us, like you said, coming to work on time, things like that. When I hire people in my other occupation, when I'm with my business, that's what I'm looking for. And my former band director tells us all the time, if you're on time, you're late. Yeah. If you're early, you're on time. Yeah. And just having that responsible mindset that we're responsible for all of our actions. We're responsible for what we do, what we say, and more importantly, we're responsible for how we represent our race on the world scale with the rest of the human family. We're responsible for how we represent ourselves. So definitely.
Yeah. But to go back, I do give my guys a little freedom far as, the writing. I let them do the field shows. I would listen to it, change this, change that, but I give them that freedom. Other than that, I take the lead on the cadences and it just, I feel, if they're going to be a music teacher, let them get the experience in, but, it's nice to see, everybody doing their own thing. And I agree with you also, you do your thing, but you still have that input, also. But to switch gears, what is one HBCU drum line out of the SWAC would you want your guys to battle?
You mean outside of the SWAC?
Yes.
Yeah, outside.
Man, the CIA, you guys have a lot of talent. And I look at it like this. I'm very competitive, right? I'm a very competitive person. So, of course, I'm going to say Virginia State. I'm going to say Norfolk State, right? I'm going to say I love DOA. Okay. I love Cold Steel. I love Cookman, Sudden Impact. Man, to be honest with you, I appreciate everybody. And I think the better the opposition, you can look at it as winning and losing, but if you learn something and gain something from it and it makes you better at the end of the day, then you really didn't lose.
Yes.
You really didn't lose. But there are a lot of schools that I would really love to battle, just for the sake, not because I think we can necessarily win, but more so because I respect the instructors.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we've all seen battles where people play over each other and things like that, and it gets ugly. And, we've even seen people shove and push each other and things like that, drum lines, and we shouldn't be representing that. And I think when you look at some of the best drum lines, they all have one thing in common. And the thing they have in common is that the instructors are very mannerable and teachable, and they're very disciplined.
Yes.
And I think even that on a world stage needs to be seen as well. They need to see that after we battle, we're shaking hands and we're smiling. Mm-hmm. It's a genuine respect and love for each other, not Wait till next year or wait next time. You can see us again. We got this one. We don't need to see all of that. That has its place, right? In friendly competition. But I think for more so, I would definitely say Virginia State, because you guys, and here's the deal. I watch Drumline. I would never watch Drumline, only our conference. Then I would start watching, over the years, I would start watching Virginia State. And I've seen the progress. I've seen the progress. Like, it is night and day different. It is. I've seen the progress. And that's not saying anything was bad or anything like that. I can see things that you're not showing me. I knew you guys were teaching off paper. Yeah. I knew you guys were definitely trying to pull away from rote. Yes. Because you can't be as effective as you are if you're doing rote. Yeah. Right? You can't be as in tune and in sync as you guys are if you're not using a metronome. Yeah. And I think a lot of people just look at the finished product. They just look at the battle. But I look at the things that it takes to do what you're doing. That's how I approach battling with people. I look at what you're doing. I look at your approach. Does all your material sound the same? If it does, we're going to have a field day, right? If you can go from Latin to samba, if you can go to hip hop, you can start doing different things. Hey, if you can start showing us different things that you normally don't do outside of the box, like, whoa, even that shocks the crowd. So it's all about having fun factor, crowd participation. But I would definitely say dealing with the other conferences. I talked to Kaz at Lane, definitely Lane. I'd love to battle Lane. I'd love to battle Southern. That's our conference, of course. But to be honest with you, I'd love to battle anybody. And notice those programs I'm talking about, they're respectable programs with top quality instructors. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say, when we battled Lane, it was two different styles, but I learned a lot, and it was all love behind, like you said, after the battle, gave dap, everybody, but I learned a lot from, because it was my first time, us battling a different style outside of what we do. But I can get a U-Haul. I can bring the boys on down to Grambling. We can get it in now. No, I'm joking.
It's a long drive.
Long drive.
Long drive.
A long drive.
Yeah. So, Mr. Davis, you have really, this has been truly a treat. You've talked about so many good points here, not just about Grambling, but just about other drum lines as well as HBCU percussion just in general, to try to be better and try to progress the programs as well. And I know with Grambling, you guys, just the band, the marching band, world famed drumline, you guys have been a lot of places all over the world, and not too many people can say that. And if you can, just take a couple moments to talk to us about your most memorable moments with the world famed drumline. And what sticks out in your mind?
I have so many of them. Just commercials. Just being a young middle-class kid. I've been on the news for doing great things at school and high school, but, an actual commercial, and you can point and say, that's me. Matter of fact, one of my former section leaders just graduated last year. He just graduated he was a former section leader last year. He just graduated. He literally 2 nights ago came in my inbox on Facebook and was like, hey, man, who is this? And he sent me a picture on a video from 20 years ago of the Grambling 100-year bicentennial, right? And it was 22 years ago. And it was my freshman year. And they interviewed me and asked me about the band and things like that. And I was like, wow, no beard, like no glasses, just like this young kid. I was like, I hadn't even seen that in like 22 years, that video, right? That's history. And he was like, man, if you want to march now, I want to come back under you. And I was like, man, like I forgot all about this. And then I think about the inauguration parades we've done. I think about the commercials we've done. I barely missed the Super Bowl. But I just think about all the domes I played in, all the, like Indianapolis, we played FAMU back in, I want to say maybe like 99, 2000. We played FAMU. We had a drumline battle after that. I don't know what the footage is. I wish the footage was there because I did a lot of damage by myself against some people. So, as a freshman, I was just out there and we were playing. It was like they had a bunch. There was big drumline. And it was just like, hey, we'll put the freshmen on you guys. And I was playing. I wish I had that footage. I had it at one time. I gave it to one of my friends, and something happened to it. I think it was like a house fire, either a flood or something like that. It was so many, like it was decades ago. I lost that footage. It was on VHS, you know. So I wish I had that footage. And somebody from FAMU have it, please post it. I love it. Archive that and have that. That was one of my memorable moments. I remember my first game at Grambling State University, strapped up in the stands, and the alumni came back. It was a home game. We were playing Alcorn, and I was playing, and, you know, I was taught straight ahead, mean mug, and I just remember after we sat down, everybody pointing at me like, that kid's for real. You know, things like that. And I'm looking at these people. These are people that I knew, that I watched and studied. They used to call me Channel 12, right? My mom bought me this big video camera. And I used to follow Grambling. My senior year in high school, we used to go around and follow Grambling everywhere, man, me and my friends, and record the drum line. I had access to the drum line like I was a part of, like I'd be behind the stadium after they've marched out with a camera, recording them playing things. And, you know, it made it a lot easier when I got down there. I knew a lot of them, a lot of the people down there and things like that. I knew their names. They didn't know, like, people in my high school. So it's just like we knew them and we knew of them. I had 4 scholarships, Texas Southern, Alcorn, you know, things Jackson State. I just chose Grambling. It was right down the street. And I'm a homebody as well. But I would say my biggest deal would probably be commercial, just different commercials. Wheel of Fortune. That was big. You know, in New Orleans, Wheel of Fortune, that was big. The Bicentennial, like, when I look back and see that part, and it's on YouTube right now, I'll send it to you guys, but part 1 and part 2, it was me as a freshman, and we had another freshman. She was an Asian. She was from Hong Kong, right? And we were chosen to represent the university. And I'm like, man, this is a storied tradition. You look at Conrad Hutchinson, what it took to build the band, getting those first instruments from Sears and Roebuck, and you look at all of this history. And this man, Conrad, has been tasked with putting this program together that has been, we've done more Super Bowl performances than any other group or act in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. The first AFC NFC championship game, which is the first Super Bowl, was called the AFC championship game, AFC NFC championship game. We did that. Yeah. We've had more appearances. That was one of the Jeopardy questions. We've had more appearances than any Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson, Beyonce. We've had more appearances than Madonna. I mean, and you think about that, and then you look and say, hey, and it just reminded me a couple nights ago, I was chosen to represent this program as a freshman in band camp. Didn't really know anything about anything. We were learning. We were absorbing all the history information. I've always been a person that loves stories. I love to learn about the history and what I'm a part of. Like I said, I'll learn. I want to know everything about it so I can pass it on to the next generation. But I would definitely say that just being chosen to represent as a spokesman for the world-famed Tiger University, marching band, as a representative, that means a lot. Just seeing that the other night meant a lot. And then the kids that weren't even born, right, saying, "Man, this is you," and seeing me out there funk training with the upper class, and I was like, I think I was the only freshman that was allowed to do it with them. And you just see all those different things, so definitely stuff like that.
Okay. And that's outstanding. It sounds like you have seen a lot, and it's just a lot of memories, and not just what, it's just fantastic. Just the things you guys get to do and see and everything, and just your own personal experiences on that. So thank you for sharing that. So we're pretty much getting ready to close on out here, and I'm sure you've seen our episodes, right? I'm sure you're familiar with what happens now. So we just want to thank you, Mr. Davis, for coming on the HBCU Drumline Talk. And before we go, think about this one thing. There are a lot of HBCU drumlines out here. And if you had 30 days to get your hands on any HBCU drumline that you want, and you had free reign to do whatever you would like, which drumline would that be? Which HBCU drumline would that be?
Okay, yeah. I was prepared for this question, but you have to be politically correct. But I'll be honest.
And please, don't hold back.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I had to, I would probably say Norfolk.
Okay. Okay.
I'll probably say Norfolk. Yeah, because
Okay.
certain things you could actually do. Certain ideas I could see doing things. I would probably say Norfolk. Yeah, probably Norfolk.
I
Okay.
would love to see that too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good deal.
Okay, so then you also know what's coming up next. As far as the question, where your sticks at?
Right? Listen, I always have sticks. I have sticks in my car outside right now. I have a trunk full of sticks. Actually, I'm at work right now.
Got
I'm at my store right now. So I just don't have them with me right now. And that's shame on me. Actually, they're downstairs in my bag. I actually have them downstairs in my bag. So, and you know what I said? I said I should have brought them with me just to play something and something like that or whatnot. Because I didn't know if you guys were going to actually.
Would you like us to wait?
That's fine. I tell you what, let me put it let me put you on hold and I'll go grab them real quick, okay?
Cool.
All right.
I hate to see if he went to the car. I was like, I don't even have my sticks. Oh, here he is.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
All right. Kind of scoot them off. Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead and show them something.
Yeah, just give us a quick, let us know what you got.
Okay. Just a quick lick, I guess.
So just letting you know before you jump into it. Yes.
Okay. Let me see. This is another one. Actually, this is one that myself. I came with the book of my students added parts to it. And it's called God Don't Like Ugly. So it's like. So the check pattern is paradiddle-diddle. So it's with a cheese into a diddle at the end.
I just want to say thanks again to Mr. Ricardo Davis. That was the real deal. He played, showed us what he can do. And this is the instructor. So as you can see, the instructor can also play as well. And as we close out, we just want to thank our viewers for tuning in. We hope to see you next time. But if you haven't seen any of our episodes, please tune in on iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify. You can also check out our information on YouTube as well. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, HBCU Drumline Talk. So until next time, everybody, please be safe.
Peace.